Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're sitting down with Steve Wand, who's been in the cryptocurrency space for quite a while. He's busy in the NFT space today, and he is going to share with us kind of his experience in the space as well as why he's a big proponent of virtual reality. And then we might get into some current events as well. So thanks, Steve, for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Could you kind of discuss why you're so fascinated by NFTs and why you think they're so important?
Well, being in the crypto space since about 2013, fairly heavily involved. I was at ETH Waterloo, which is a hackathon in Canada in, I believe, November of 2017. And CryptoKitties was the team that won the hackathon. And at the time, everyone was kind of talking about what their project was about and whatnot. Now, CryptoPunks had been out before it, but it was kind of the first thing that really blew up. And I was at that event, kind of dismissed it at first, and then about 6 months later, started hearing other things in the space that were taking place. The metaverses, like Decentraland, specifically in crypto voxels, started having ICOs and doing certain things that were kind of triggers, just like early crypto days were. And then I looked into it again, and kind of it opened my eyes to the possibilities that it held, with not only the metaverses, but new forms of commerce, new business models being created, different types of advertising that you can do in engagement forms. As far as crypto art, I would say that's probably the driver that's attracting the most people to the metaverse right now. So all these things kind of spawned out of the NFT and CryptoKitties boom. And it reminds me just of crypto in 2012, 13, where there wasn't many things, I guess, platforms to utilize that were easy to move things around. Gas prices have been through the roof lately as far as Ethereum. So there has been some growing pains, but it's just like then. And there's tons of people building the tools and the resources and the platforms that are needed to lower those barriers to get a lot more entrance into the space. So I would say by 2022, 2023, you'll see, probably this peak or at least bubble, where the NFT space, you're going to see kind of the craziness we saw, I think, in 2017 with crypto.
Could you kind of go a little further into art and why people are excited about that and what that's looking like inside the metaverse?
Yeah, so art kind of is what makes it so beautiful in the metaverse. Now, keep in mind, there's no rules that we have to take from real life into the metaverse. So you can structurally, you can have a floating building, it doesn't matter at all. Art can be hanging, it can be floating, it can be interchangeable. There's different platforms out now like async art that lets you buy a piece and actually in game you can control that. So, for example, if say there was a decentralized game like Fortnite out there that millions and millions of people were playing, you would have the ability to, if there was a painting on the wall in a certain scene, you would be able to go in and change that, and everyone in that game would see the change. You can also have it where the price of Bitcoin would affect that. So if Bitcoin's going up or down, the painting might change, or the landscape behind the painting might change within the frame. So and this is just all new. They're just kind of touching on this now. So the possibilities that this and like Super Rare, they've just released a 3D kind of picture that you can make. So I can buy a 3D picture and I can take my mouse and literally 360 anywhere I want. I can look any aspect of that picture, behind, upside down, in front, like the layer of it. So there's a lot of cool things being done. And to be honest, right now, the masses don't even know what's happening. So when they come into this, the world is going to be absolutely amazing compared to what it looks now. And I'm pretty impressed already what it looks like, given that it's been 3 years since the kind of brainchild from Decentraland and their ICO in 2017 till it went live in February 2020. It's come a very, very long way. And if they can replicate that, at least one or two folds in the next 2 or 3 years into the VR aspect of it, then they've got a serious platform there that's going to attract hundreds of millions of people. Somnium Space is another platform, and they're out of the gates. They were VR, so you can use that with your Quest as long as you have a Rift cord. But there's tons of stuff going on in this space, and land value is increasing. The scarcity of them is definitely something that stands out now. The price is going up for not even waterfront or street front properties. It's going up drastically in some of these worlds. So you can sense that there's definitely a lot of more people coming in. And I've been playing the Decentraland World Cup soccer, crypto soccer, this last week. And the wearables in these worlds is what a lot of people who are kind of thinkers and creators in the space, they feel that skins and interchangeable avatars and whatnot are what's really, really going to blow up the commerce aspect within these worlds.
Wow, it's really exciting. I'm curious, like, what would people be able to do with property they own in the metaverse, and what would cause the value to go up?
So in the metaverse, it's actually it's kind of a catch-22 right now. There are some whales that bought land, 2.5, 3 years ago in the ICO for maybe 5,000 mana at that time, which wouldn't have been a lot of money. Probably would have been maybe $100, $200 at the time. And if they sit on it too long and everyone around them builds, technically, it's in their best interest to build because that would greatly increase the value of their land. If there's a city there, and many things to do, it's a huge attraction. If you just leave that idle and no one around you builds, you literally will be, your land will decrease in value, I would say, over time, especially if no one's building. Now, some people who have bought the land and don't have the either coding skills or the time or whatnot to be able to implement a number of these buildings or different things that they can create in these worlds. So a lot of times, some of the whales will go out and say, to a new up and coming artist or builder or a creator, they'll come out and say, you can take this piece of land, I still own it, but you can have this. I will kind of like rent it to you. You're welcome to build on it and show your art because you don't have the means to do so yourself at this point in your career. And a lot of those artists definitely took them up on it, built some beautiful, beautiful buildings, and then it increased the value of the entire community that they were in. So it almost generated the first area of major interest that spiked the value greatly in those areas, and everyone wanted to build around there because that's kind of where people went when they dropped into the worlds. And by default, that's where commerce and advertising and everything else would come into play, because of course, the more people your eyes you're seeing, the more you're going to get interest from advertisers.
How are you doing in the soccer tournament?
Actually, we did terribly. So we are already knocked out. We didn't qualify, but it was a great experience. I think we'll look back on it saying that I can't believe how basic that was in 3 years, but it was a very cool. I'm happy that Decentraland decided to put it on because they gave away jerseys. So there were 24 teams that entered. There was NFT jerseys that were all one of 100 jerseys. The teams each got 20 of the jerseys to have the players wear them or give them to other team members to wear it in these worlds. So it's kind of advertising on your avatar. And then Decentraland kept 10 of them for themselves for future giveaways. And then they had kind of souvenir style stands outside. And if you came over and clicked on it, it would sync with your MetaMask or your whichever wallet you use for your NFTs. And it would actually, if you could, now there was a huge mass congregation there and it was very, very hard to get them. And last night there was 3 different jerseys, 70 of each jersey that Decentraland gave away for free. And they went in under a minute. And then they were on OpenSea, which is the eBay of NFTs, which is a second marketplace for things like this. And OpenSea started listing them and they were selling for between $25 and $50 within minutes.
Have there been any riots in the metaverse lately?
No, but it's funny because they had social distancing on the avatars in the stands, which I found kind of amusing.
What are you working on as co-founder of Digitable? Is that how you say it?
It is, yes, Digitable. And Digitable, I heard that term in 2018 at ETH Denver. Someone was kind of explaining what DeFi was, decentralized finance, which is blowing up right now as well. And they also said Digitable, and then they explained it's a digital collectible. So the next day, our co-founder bought the URL for it, and that's kind of what we've referred to it ever since. There's a couple different companies now that are, because it's called an NFT, which is broken down to a non-fungible token, and kind of to go into that first before I trail back. But a non-fungible token is something that's a one-of-one that can't be interchanged with something else. So a dollar bill, if I have $1 bill and you have a dollar bill, that's kind of, that's fungible. It's one for one. It doesn't matter who's got which one; they're exactly the same value. As far as a Bitcoin, if I have 0.01 of a Bitcoin, I send it to you, it's the exact same as my 0.01 of a Bitcoin. So a fungible is a one of one. So for tokenized art, for old wine, for old museum pieces and whatnot, if they are tokenized, it comes with a digital governance. So it would have a QR code that you could scan, and that would reference online that the world could see in real time on the blockchain. So it can't be edited or changed or erased. So it would always be there. So if you were selling, say, a 16th century violin, and you're asking $1.3 million, and you just said, well, trust me, it's this guy who's a violin expert said it was. In this case, you would have probably a reference of 17 different people, from a wood expert to the bow expert, to 16th century music expert, and all their credentials would be attached to the blockchain, showing all their, say, education history or their studies, and why they are experts in the fields that they're referencing. So it just goes so deep that it's really the most verifiable thing you could possibly attach to that piece, other than a COA that could have been doctored, it could have been forged, there could have been a number of things that would have happened to it. And this is the most kind of realistic or truthful thing that you can attach to anything of value. So NFTs right now, we're seeing them as CryptoKitties in some cases, as skins, as weapons in games, as these things that you can do and play with. But in the future, if you think of if every bullet had something in it that was that was on the blockchain, that was a one of one bullet, that was in a gun. If you fired that, it would be geotag located. So there's if you broke your windshield glass and you had a Toyota car, you don't know if you're getting second generation glass or not. You'd be able to scan this QR code and it would reference exactly, the second it was made, the second it was shipped, where it came from, all the ingredients in that glass. So you would be able to verify upon resale that yes, 100%, and this is, a fact, that is real Toyota glass. So it's, I know it's in the future, I think we're going to see, hundreds of millions of use cases on what NFTs can bring. But right now we're only kind of seeing the gaming aspect. But again, the gaming aspect is typically what drives mass adoption over time. Gamers are always kind of the first to things. And if you look at gaming now, it's blowing up. There's sometimes they get more than an MGM boxing fight to see streaming on Fortnite. So they're, I don't know, video games aren't really a kid's thing anymore.
You can make a lot of money playing video games.
Well, nowadays there's lots of incentives. So you can get free items in game that are very valuable. They might be mythic or an epic, a one of 100 or one of 10, and you can sell those on these marketplaces. And there's really no age barrier as long as you have a wallet with Ethereum in it to pay the gas costs or to sync with these games, so it knows who you are with your wallet ID. In that case, there's really no barrier. You could be a 12-year-old playing at home, gathering tons and tons of objects, selling them on second markets, making thousands of dollars doing it.
Could you discuss maybe how somebody who has not yet been in the metaverse or doesn't know how to participate in it could participate in it?
Yes, and actually, I think a lot of people, that is something that is a barrier. A lot of people might find it overwhelming, or they think it might have to do with they need VR glasses to do it. It isn't that case. Most of the metaverses right now, or the different verses, they are technically only in 2D. The odd are in 3D. Crypto Voxels, which is one of the older ones with Decentraland, you can actually look at that on mobile. Now, there's not much engagement, and it is the world isn't built out in some areas, so in some cases it's not overly engaging. But Decentraland right now is pretty impressive, and so is Somnium Space. So if you wanted to just typically check something out, now the main roadblock that I find people, so this is all built on a decentralized internet. So the Google and the search engines that we use now, those are Web 2.0 search engines. So those look at a centralized internet, which Google controls and owns. They scrub it. They whoever pays gets put at the top. So the new internet, which is technically built on top of Ethereum and a couple other blockchains, the new internet is a decentralized internet, and there is no kind of dictator at the top scanning and being able to change the rules at the drop of a dime. This is a decentralized network of people running either nodes or programs, and it's simply run by math and energy. Typically, right now with Ethereum, they're changing that in the future to the way they run the network. But right now, that's the way they run it, and so does Bitcoin. So with the miners and everyone keeping the network 100% secure, it's a lot more secure than Google's network. These miners technically get paid to complete these transactions for us. So the Ethereum network right now, there's is some days when it's congested and gas prices are high. It can be up to 10 minutes to get something. And that goes to show, if someone's saying no one's using Ethereum, there are hundreds of thousands of people a minute using Ethereum. So we see the Ethereum clog, and Ethereum is the new internet technically, but right now it's brand new. It was created in 2004 from Vitalik Buterin, and in 2016 it technically went live for you to utilize certain things on it. It was very, very, very basic. They're still building it out right now and trying to figure out some scaling issues for it to grow to say exceed greatly Visa MasterCards per transactions per second. Which I think it will do very easily in, say, the next 3 to 5 years. And once that happens, this internet is going to be the new Google. And right now, unless you're on using Google Chrome or Opera, that's the only way. You can go in there and download an extension, which is typically MetaMask. And MetaMask is the NFT wallet that you would technically store not only your land, but any skins or guns you have. And then as well, you can also store your Ethereum and any other ERC20 tokens. So Ethereum is not only, we see it as kind of like a crypto, Ethereum is technically the new internet, and gas is the cost gas is what you have to pay to ride on this internet. Those costs are typically high right now, but again, once scaling is figured out in the coming years, that cost will go down, and the more people that want to utilize smart contracts, they'll be using Ethereum's platform. So Ethereum is technically, I would say in 5 to 7 years, will almost replace Google. It'll be a much fairer, transparent internet with real results, not paid results. And it's something that I think we're going to see the giants of today technically succumb to that technology. So I'm sorry. So if you did want to go on to, say, Decentraland, if you've gone into, say, you're using Google Chrome as your browser, download MetaMask's extension. Setting up MetaMask is a learning curve. You have to create a password and a username, and then it gives you your 12 keywords. You write those down. Those are in case your computer crashes and you need to get back in, and your password and username aren't good enough. You'd enter those 12 words, and those are kind of your safe words to retrieve your wallet. Because the last thing you want to do is lose that. If you have Ethereum, land, and everything else in there, if you do lose that with those keys, technically those are locked forever. So it's something that it's the same as crypto. You have to be very careful with what you're doing and holding your things properly on your own, not through third parties.
So you mentioned a decentralized internet, and this is also referred to as Web3, and it's an idea that's been gaining steam, particularly, I think, in the blockchain and cryptocurrency spaces. Could you kind of discuss where we are at today with the decentralized internet and Web3, and why you think that's such an important technology? You've mentioned sort of how there has been this trend towards centralization and monopolization of Internet 2.0, but perhaps you could elaborate upon that a little bit.
Yes, and I think it is very early days. Again, there are people I know, numerous ones in crypto, that when I've said, hey, do you have MetaMask or Trust? I'll send you some NFTs, and you can kind of see what they're like, just to get a feel. If they drop them in their wallet and they can see them physically, sometimes it triggers something in them. And a lot of them are, will say, oh, your website doesn't work. And I say, well, what are you using to look it up? And they'll say, well, I'm just on Explorer. I'm looking through, this browser through Facebook. I say, no, you have to. This is Web3, and these are educated, tenured crypto people, been around the space. Some of them for 5-10 years in that scene, and they really haven't wrapped their head around Web 3.0, smart contracts, Ethereum, and kind of what's happening in the NFT space. But there's been numerous articles written in, say, the last 3 to 4 weeks specifically by a number of very kind of well-established people in the space that are very early in the space and well recognized already. And all of it is very pro on the metaverse, crypto art, certain NFTs depending on their scarcity, and it's almost where these artists, some of them whose art sells, substantially and sells out in a matter of seconds. Some of these people are almost becoming the new celebrities in the space, and their work is in serious demand. And I know that a lot of people collected their physical work at some point early in their career, say in 2016, 17, or 18, when they started only making physical pieces. And then they started getting into the NFT space and making something that you can actually send to me instantaneously to my wallet. I get it. It's a one of one. If I put it in the metaverse, it's got a certain color frame around it. So everyone in that metaverse knows that I actually own that. Anyone else can put another one in there, but they can't have the same frame color I would have as the owner. So that's kind of your COA, if you will, in the metaverse, that yes, this is mine, and I actually own this, and you can look on the blockchain and reference that anytime. So all these pieces of art now, they're typically, if you put, say I'm selling this physical piece for X amount, or this digital NFT piece for X amount, the NFT piece is selling for between 2 to 5 times more. So there's already, and these are collectors in the space who, and this isn't something they're paying, $80 for. This is something they're paying like three or $4,000 for. And other people will then, want to buy that a month later on a second market for perhaps 5,000 or 6,000. And that's happening. That happens technically, frequently. So you can see there's definitely something happening in the space. All of a sudden you'll see new people come into the space that might be ETH whales, or I'm not sure what attracted them to the space, but they'll start outbidding other people that were kind of known as the old whales. So you can see there's new entrants that are coming in with money that are willing to, that want to spend it, and they're willing to collect these things. And they're dropping 18 to 30 ETH on these things. And they'll do it weekly or daily in some cases. And a lot of these things are then being taken into the metaverse and put in buildings, and depending on the metaverse. So when I referenced before that my frame color would say be silver and everyone else's would be black, that's Decentraland's kind of their rule set right now. Crypto voxels, anyone can have anything, but it's kind of glowing silver, the picture itself, if it's mine. And in Somnium space, only if I own it, I can bring it in. So if there's someone in Somnium space who's got a beautiful building, and there are a number of art museums in Somnium that you can go see, and the work in there is owned by the museum, and it's a one of one piece, and so everyone knows that museum, in the future, that could be a very, very expensive museum to resell.
So in terms of like Web3 and comparing it to Internet 2.0, I think one of the biggest threats to the future of the cryptocurrency and the blockchain space is the current state of the internet.
Well, it's a terrible thing, because even I know trying to put ads on Facebook for crypto companies, it's a nightmare. Even though they banned it, then they said it was fine. Listing it after they said it was fine still wasn't fine. They'd give you excuses on why you couldn't list it. Even now, sometimes it gets through, sometimes it doesn't. And again, with virtual reality, I know there's a lot of these different verses that want to put their kind of their download as a default in, say, the Oculus's store, just as you would go download an app in the App Store. So if I went to the App Store right now, or the Oculus store, I can't find any verses whatsoever. If I can get them, it's all manual workarounds. You have to go to their web client, bring up the browser, go into it, try and sync with MetaMask in there. So there's a lot of different steps and a lot of roadblocks and a lot of things that would deter people from trying to set that up properly and actually engage in that verse, because they can't get in. But I know Facebook has had Horizon, which is a centralized world similar to what we're trying to build with these different verses. Now it's controlled exclusively by Facebook. It'll be pay to play, obviously. They own all the content. So if it goes offline, or if I stop engaging with it, then too bad, that's theirs now, and I don't get any credit for that, nor is it my asset. So in the worlds on the Web 3.0, the way gaming should be, whereas if you spent $1,000 on Fortnite skins and Fortnite goes offline because they're just bankrupt in 10 years, that's something that your skins are gone, and too bad for you, just like Second Life or anything else. In the decentralized world, those are your assets. You own them. You can put them in your will. You can trade them. You can have them on second markets within a second of getting it. Trading them is instantaneous. It's in a smart contract. You're never going to get ripped off, because a smart contract will either execute or not execute. So you're removing any trust from the transaction worldwide. You never have to meet anybody. You can always guarantee that it's a secure transaction. So it's changing the way commerce is going to work. There's no need for a CEO or people. It's all going to be executed with smart contracts. It's going to be extremely efficient cost-wise for companies to work this way. If Amazon moved to smart contracts right now, they would probably be able to lay off 1/3 of the workforce overnight easily, and they'd be a much more efficient, robust, kind of process along the way. And they're already pretty efficient. And these, the smart contracts would make that so much more efficient and so much cheaper. So this Web 3.0 right now, a lot of people don't really know it exists. And when you're trying to explain it, they're kind of like, yeah, whenever it's easier, I'll kind of check it out. And that's kind of people like myself and who I work with in the space. That's what we're trying to do, is remove these barriers. So it is something just saying, go to this app. It just syncs automatically with something for you. Just, it'll scan with your Apple ID. And then, we can take you in, and it'll make it very, very easy for, someone who's 12 could use it, or someone who's 68 could use it. And that's the way it needs to be before it takes off. And crypto hasn't even got there yet. And crypto is, 11 years old, Bitcoin right now. So now the thing that this kicked off is a lot of people did make money off the crypto boom in, say, 16, 17, or even earlier. And a lot of that money came into this space and built things a lot faster than it did in crypto, because from 2009 to 2015, not a lot happened technically in crypto, where people saw the returns they did in 2017. And with that money after 2017, when CryptoKitties kind of was born and that boom happened and media attention was had with it, then money poured into the space and things got built out much, much quicker than when crypto did. So I think we're going to see a boom a lot faster than we saw, the crypto boom.
I want to switch gears here a little bit, kind of do a little bait and switch. I think a lot of people that are interested in the metaverse and NFTs and virtual reality even might have found the first half of this talk interesting, but I want to talk a little bit about 2020. And so first I'll just kind of lay out the way I've seen it. So we have, according to Francis Boyle, who wrote the United States' biochemical or biological and chemical warfare legislation under George H.W. Bush, claiming that he believes that COVID-19 is actually a bioweapon that was released out of China, but via international organizations. Then, as a response to this bioweapon, this possible bioweapon, there were these lockdowns, and the lockdowns, there's no historical precedent really for them. There's really no clear-cut scientific research that locking everyone in their homes would stymie the spread of a virus, nor is that possibly the right course of action. That's, I think, also a debate that could be had within the scientific medical community. If whether or not you want to do herd immunity or slow the spread. We were told 2 weeks. That got extended to months. And an effect thereof, which I think is probably one of the main goals, was to kill small business. Many small businesses were not able to open, which would then kick off an economic depression. We have a Black Lives Matter movement now today. However, Black Lives did not matter when the economy was shut down and people who are historically Black and brown people on the kind of edges of civilization, who were perhaps living on $1 a day, might be pushed over into starvation. And there were numbers that coming out of like institutions like the UN saying that like hundreds of millions of people might starve. 130 million, I think, was the number. And then as the lockdown was sort of coming to a close, maybe people were exhausted, or perhaps we just all naturally knew that as the summer was coming in, that the virus season was over and that we could go back to leading our lives. In the US, we were shown a brutal killing by a black man by a cop. And for about 24 hours, there was, I think, unity in the United States. I think everyone on both sides of the political aisle do believe in reform of the police, demilitarization of the police. In 2000, starting in 2000, there's articles about how the courts were upholding that police departments could not hire somebody because their IQ was too high. So I'm not sure. I don't blame the police for this trend of lowering the IQs of those they hire while giving them the weapons of war. I don't think that was the individual police officer's decision. And then we had that window of 24 hours where everyone's sort of on the same page for reform. And then the media kind of used that passion in the nation to really mobilize the left side of the political aisle towards what I view are kind of Marxist Leninist ideas. And I think the entire platform that's been pushed in that wake, from defund the police to Black Lives Matter, which I think is an anti-Black front organization for a totalitarian agenda and therefore inherently racist, sort of stole the show, if you will. And then there was rioting in the U.S. Of course, there were many peaceful protesters, but in so many cases, the peaceful protesters were used as cover for, I guess, kind of criminal activity, rioting. So here in San Diego, an optometrist, we didn't have it too bad, although they did burn 2 banks and like destroy 5 small businesses in a bedroom community in downtown San Diego. They looted an optometrist. So as we were coming out of the lockdown and small businesses were open, then the media kind of like got everyone all up into a um, fuss and kind of closed everything back down again. I mean, now we're here. We're kind of going back into the lockdowns right ahead of the 4th of July weekend. Businesses were told to shut down again. Again, I think that's an economic war act. It's not a medical act. What do you think of all that?
I would strongly agree that I think it's absolutely absurd that we, even if there is a virus that's remotely 1/10 as bad as they're trying to push to us, if that is the case, we need to either protect those who are vulnerable by distancing from them. Excuse me, distancing from them. As far as all of humanity in North America, pretty much, or in most like first worlds around the globe being shut down, being forced to wear masks and stay in your home and shut down your business at will, and being beat if you didn't by unmasked cops and thrown in an unmasked prison with dense population. It made zero sense. Right now, the elite just grab things for pennies on the dollar across the globe and just became so much more powerful. Amazon just blew up because e-commerce is blowing up, and they're automatically, like leading the pack with that by far. So with like, I'm refusing myself. Excuse me. I had a test done the other day that I had to wear a mask to, which I voiced my opinion on that. I posted a picture on Facebook saying that I felt like a complete idiot that I had to wear this, and I was condoning like a slave, because I needed to get this test done so I could fly to Bahamas, just to have some business to do there, which they require upon entry of the country that I have to do this. I'm told that I have to wear something on the airplane if I'm not eating or drinking, which I will be intending to be eating or drinking the entire flight. So I plan to not be wearing my mask, unless it becomes a huge issue and they threaten to kick me off the plane. Other than that, I mean, if I was going to an old age home and I was hacking a lung and knew I was sick for the last 3 days, that would probably be very stupid of me. And I'd be jeopardizing them likely if they weren't protecting themselves by staying away from me. By putting everyone in a mask or keeping them locked in their house. If there is a virus, that's doing nothing whatsoever to try and remotely get past that. So to get out there in public and have the healthy, which is the most of society, out there and actually getting past this is probably the best thing we could be doing. What Sweden did, I give them a huge hats off for that. It's exactly what the world should have been done. Sweden is almost past this point now with very few deaths compared to what could have taken place around the globe. And again, if you had a huge aging population or a failed healthcare system or just, an obese population or anything like that had underlying health issues, of course they're going to get sick if they have a respiratory issue already and they come in contact with someone who's got this in close quarters. That is kind of a no-brainer. And the same thing would happen with the flu or any number of things that we've been living with for the last 100 years. So this is like ridiculous the way the governments in Canada and the United States and even like Europe have flip-flopped around what they're going to be doing and what they aren't going to be doing. Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. And then now that the death rate is going like vastly down as the infected rate is going vastly up, which is exactly what we want to happen to get over this. This is when the masks are becoming mandatory moving forward. So if we already got past this, there's no vaccine, 99.3% of us aren't even affected by it. And we're kind of living our lives, and the other people aren't, which they wouldn't be anyway because they're not overly healthy, is absurd to me. And I don't know, I've been very, very, I don't know, I guess vocal about this on social media. I've taken some heat for it. There's been a couple of people, well, not a couple. There's been, I don't know, at least 50 people who have probably, disconnected with me, which I don't mind whatsoever because obviously we're not aligned in our thought process. And I've been teaching my children that, like, we haven't had TV for probably 3 years. We don't need to listen to what the media is trying to shove down our throat, nor do we need to believe that, to be healthy, if we have a great immune system and we're active and get out in the sun, and have fresh air going through our lungs, not with a mask on, we should have no worries unless we're out there licking things, never washing our hands, and being extremely unhealthy with no exercise and no sleep. The average person in the world, if they got this, probably doesn't even know they have it. And unless they come in contact with an old age home who's riddled with sickness, that might be a cause for concern. Otherwise, I don't think anyone should be alarmed about anything. And like places like Costco that made us wear masks. For a while, I didn't go, and then I heard that you could go if you kind of declined. I have gone. I did say no, I don't want one. After a while, they'll leave you alone and let you go in without one. But any store that would require that of me, I'm definitely not giving them my business. And I'm going to be speaking with my dollar moving forward about things. So if I don't like what a company is doing as a whole, like say an airline is saying no, in our airport or at the wing, everyone has to have a mask on, no exceptions. I would definitely try and deter from using whatever brand that would be.
I'm doing the same thing. They opened up the farmers markets, I think in May maybe, and I started going there to the farmers markets. I have not been to Costco in many months. That was a place I went to most of the time. Those who are for stay at home and locking down the economy are actually pro massive multinational corporations and anti small business, anti their community, and anti kind of they're thinking global, acting global. But I know they love saying the whole
Well, they're also
think
the ones
global, act global.
they're also the ones who watch CNN and Fox, and also a million, drug commercials from pharmaceutical companies. That a lot of them are on those drugs, which kind of dumbs them down and puts them in a state where, watch TV, watch your sitcoms, and do whatever you're doing. But they're just kind of floating through their lives. They don't really want to know what's going on. It would scare the shit out of them if they knew what was going on, and they would have to act on that if they knew what was going on. And most Americans or Canadians or Europeans who are comfortable with their lifestyle, they don't want to act on anything, and they don't want to know something that's going to like literally put their lives in a 180. That I don't know how you can know the information if you dig deep enough, and then say I don't want to know it. I'm going to forget it and just carry on the way I was. That would be an extremely ignorant person, and I don't know how anyone with a brain in their head could possibly do that.
I've been called dangerous, schizophrenic, a whole bunch of names since I started speaking up again. I used to I went through this in like 2010, 2009 was probably when so sort of in college, I kind of stumbled upon that things are not quite what they seem on planet Earth. And I spoke up for probably quite a few years, maybe until 2013, 2015. That line of thinking is why I ultimately stumbled upon Bitcoin after having been active in the precious metals industry. And then I kind of went quiet and focused sort of on just Bitcoin and getting work done and learning about that industry, learned a little software development. And then 2020, I was activated again. Perhaps my avatar in the Pentagon or NSA predicted that I would be. And so I've been name called quite a bit on the mask front. There's a local business right down the street from me, and the gentleman who works there said I did not need to wear a mask, that they thought it was a dumb rule. And I will say that when I go into a store like his, even now, I do wear a mask, and I wear a mask just for this reason. So I can tell people who are telling everyone to wear masks just how stupid they are without being told that I'm selfish. There's not been a single scientific study on the effects of masks on infection control in the general population ever been done, nor has there been a control to this study that's never been done. So therefore, saying that you're a proponent of science by advocating for mask wearing is a misnomer and a misconception because in reality you're pushing pseudoscience. Now, the right way to go about this would say like we're taking an educated guess that wearing masks might diminish the spread of COVID-19 if that was a goal that one wanted. But that's not how it's been presented. And now people think that they're actually the ones who are following scientists when actually they're following compromised bureaucrats. And if you think that a health director of the United States of America in 2020 hasn't been compromised when he's been there for 2 decades, you are very naive.
I agree.
Um, and so I'm curious, on the economic front, like what effects are you worried about, and how do you think this will kind of all play into crypto, blockchain, and as well the metaverse?
Well, I see right now, like with staying at home, Oculus Quest, Switches, PlayStations, everything was sold out. Any gaming device, any virtual reality device, the majority of them that are solid, they were all sold out for 2-3 months. The second sales on Amazon were triple the price. You could buy a Quest headset for $2,200, but you could buy one typically for $7. People were buying them left and right, and then Amazon was sold out of them too. So you could tell there was definitely a rush for entertainment and gaming and VR. With the aspect of everything with decent market share literally was impossible to obtain for suggested retail price. And then as far as with Bitcoin, I think people that I've been trying to remotely wake up for 15 to 20 years, I think a couple of them are actually seeing that fiat money is a complete scam. That it's inevitable no matter how much how many $6 trillion you throw out of thin air, or saying the economy and stock market are doing great now. They're doing great because everyone just got a whole bunch of free money that their kids are paying for, and you just made $6 trillion out of nothing. So of course things are booming again. That's exactly why you did that. That's the only thing that would have caused that. Otherwise, you would have been in a depression for 10 years. So you can only do that so many times before someone says, like this time now you need $50 trillion to fix this in 6 years. So people are waking up to realize that Bitcoin is sound money. It's not, it's something that it's mine. I own it. You can't take it from me. I can transact with whoever I want, doing whatever I want. And that's the way that the free market should operate. If you look at the government, they come into anything with back in the day with the mafia running numbers. They made that illegal and then started the lotteries everywhere, doing the exact same thing when the government mandated. Same thing with gambling. Same thing with marijuana. Same thing with liquor. So the second they see something that's a moneymaker, they want a piece of it. And with the banking system chiseling away, with them wanting a digital dollar, which is nothing like Bitcoin. Let's make that very, very clear. The digital dollars around the world are the exact opposite of what Bitcoin is. It's Satoshi would be rolling over in his Bitcoin grave if he knew that someone was actually making a digital dollar. That is to spy on you, to watch you, to study you and analyze you, to sell your information on what you're doing. So that is the last thing that we should be doing, is using a digital dollar. It gives even more clout to Bitcoin when things like that are trying to be put out, because it's just showing you that between our phones, our computers, and everything else we're doing, now they want to watch our finances closer than ever. So that's a very scary thought. And Bitcoin and the decentralized internet, thank God it came out at this time, because it was definitely needed. Satoshi put the bank bailout in the initial block for a reason, saying that the fiat has failed. And this is a very prevalent, transparent thing now. We should all be very cognizant of that. And the masses just don't care. Give me my TV, give me cheap food at Walmart, fast food, and I'll just float through life listening to what you have to say to me. And I refuse to live that life. I don't know. I have to say that I have a better time in the metaverse or in VR, because there's very like-minded people there. People in the metaverse are all very familiar with crypto. They're all very familiar with NFTs. Now they're familiar with art. The kind of the population that's growing in there are a younger generation that weren't able to travel very much. So I did a lot of Bitcoin conference circuit when I was working for both Helium, which is something I worked on prior to Digitable, as well as game credits, which I work at now. So with all the travel I did, it was a lot of older crowd, a lot of older people in crypto. Banks started coming in, lawyers, law firms, accounting firms. software companies, IBM. That's when I was like, now you've almost ruined it by diluting it with the shit we're trying to get away from. So the NFT space is all people who just kind of saw that, or were too young, and now we can all get together in here with no travel costs or anything else. So the community is pretty cool. Everyone's working together and collaborating like I've never seen before with Bitcoin. And this is all because I believe Ethereum, the strength of the ERC20 standard, which is almost like Java, or something, a very common language that any developer coming up in this space out of school should know Solidity, which is Ethereum's coding language. And Solidity, I think, will it'll kind of replace Java and C++ in the future moving forward, while this new internet is growing and booming.
I see like a Bitcoin or crypto civil war kind of fomenting, and it's between these people who celebrate whenever a nation state announces that they're digitizing their currency, because it demonstrates that they have zero idea what the hell they're talking about when it comes to like crypto. Um,
Yeah, that's
because
not crypto at all. That's literally that's exactly why crypto was invented, because the bank was doing that, just not on a digital at the digital level that they want to. And the tracking that comes along with that is extremely scary.
if you're celebrating,
If you did a crime, that means that you can't pay for anything, including anything for your family,
yeah.
because now their wallet, and they can block that at any time for any reason, and all of your money is gone. And that is extremely scary thought. With Bitcoin, it's the exact opposite.
We see this model being tested as we see so many models being tested in China. So if you're like one of those, and so this is what Steve just said. It's not like some like futuristic prediction. It's actually like implemented in a nation state today, and a nation state that was built by Western powers, uh, transnational corporations, China. So like I see a crypto civil war kind of forming. Those people who celebrate when they hear that some nation state is digitizing that currency, and those who generally might have been in the space early on, who joined it because it offered potential for greater liberty and freedom on the planet. And I think that's really kind of that's why I got into Bitcoin early on, was because it was an alternative to these kind of control systems. And I see, honestly, I see that we are going to have to fight for the spirit of this space moving forward, because there's great efforts afoot, and they have been since I think at least 2015, to commercially adopt it, co-opt it by major multinational corporations. And I expect that trend will only continue as intelligence agencies get involved, if they're not already involved. And then, of course, there's going to be the info war amongst the people who are participating in the space, because there are those who are kind of trusting of the powers that be today, and those who are not. And I see this divide in this space particularly. What do you think on that?
Well, I for one, like the way I see it is, what we're creating is exactly the business model that they don't want to see happen. Losing control. If you look at Facebook, Google, Amazon, they have government influence. They can buy up any patent, destroy it. They can put you out of business with their law firm team. They can smear your name in public and destroy you as a company. They can do a number of things. We've seen Facebook, with their fact checking, they're literally book burning now. They're trying to erase history in some cases, or paint a different picture of things that have happened, or what's the future of the norm to society. They're trying to kind of shove that down your throat, so they're the ones steering the ship. And the decentralized internet takes all of that away from them. So these are the biggest companies on earth that have a lot of political influence and lobbyists behind them. So this is going to be a hell of a fight. It's going to take decades to, if they're going to be irrelevant, that won't be for 20 or 30 years. And they're going to fight the whole way along and try and emerge if they can't win, as we've seen with Bitcoin. And JP Morgan, for example, thinking it was a joke, thinking banning it from their banks, and now all of a sudden they're buying it and selling it. So the same thing is going to happen. You can see with the digital dollars coming into play, and SEC and other jurisdictions saying privacy coins cannot be held in your exchange, or it's illegal, and banning Monero and Zcash. So they don't like the privacy aspect. Now that they can use companies that I don't really respect very much, like Chainalysis and other ones that they can track anything, and Coinbase is selling information to the government. So some of these companies are technically just banksters in disguise now, that they're running these companies or just want to be in bed with the government, with regulators, do everything on the up and up, share all information. And that's not what the community wants in any aspect. It's what people in the space who are day trading and don't give a shit about the tech or about what's happening in the world, how this can change it, and just want to make money. They don't care about that. And a lot of them use those platforms. The people who do care and are trying to build this out are trying to find workarounds and other ways, and just try and be as privacy oriented as possible, which is the way with this all started. And I didn't really come into crypto to try and make money. I came in because this was a kind of a technical means that, without a lot of, I think, violence, that is one aspect that's a good way to cripple the financial system. And that with that comes the military and the government. So, if enough chipping away is done with Bitcoin and other technologies, eventually there's no turning point. It's already past that. Then the decentralized internet technically will win out, guaranteed. And the masses, once this becomes easy to use, and I can use the decentralized internet just as easy as I can log on to Google in 2 seconds on my phone. Why would I choose to use Google to track me, to sell my data, to block me whenever they want on YouTube, or use the other internet that's completely free, that I can do anything I want and no one has the right to block me or tell me what I can I can't do. And that's a beautiful thing with that internet.
In conclusion, do you have any kind of final comments, Steve, about any of the topics we've covered?
Well, I would say I'm just one for, I don't know, do not let anyone kind of dictate what you should and shouldn't be doing. Use your common sense. I mean, don't go uneducated and just cruise through thinking everything's a joke. But by all means, use your head. I think that's like your gut instinct is telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing. As long as you've got a brain in that head, you're probably doing the right thing, regardless of what someone else is saying. Remember, slavery was legal. So for people to say, well, it's illegal, that's just such a stupid argument, because in Germany being Jewish was illegal. So how it's just things like that. It shouldn't really be said as a defense. So as far as I don't know, I hope the people use their brain and we get past this in a very civil way. And again, from an investment perspective, there was a lot of returns to be had on Bitcoin back in the day that some people missed out or didn't catch that boom. It definitely is coming back. Don't worry. But in the midterm, or in the short term, I guess, I would technically start looking into other digital assets that you can diversify in other than just cryptocurrencies. There's digital land, there's digital art, there's wearables for these avatars, there's names that people use. So some people are buying names for $4 and selling them for $3,500. So there's a lot of different aspects to this. There's games that you can buy, cards or weapons or different like samurai swords for, and you take them into these games and they're a one of one. You can sell them at any time. Get Ethereum back, get your Bitcoin back, get your money back, wherever you want, in and out of these platforms. So they're making it easier by far. And again, it's if you haven't heard of it yet, it's definitely something that's, it might have taken people 5 or 6 years to build Bitcoin. In the next 1 to 2 years, a lot of people are going to know what an NFT is.
People can find you at digitable.com, correct?
Digitable.com is the website, gamecredits.org, and I am Crypto Steve Wand on Twitter.
Great. And that is digitible.com.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Steve, and thank you everyone for listening.